When my wife and I got to know each other, she was the sweetest girl on earth. I had been crushing on her for a long time and couldn't muster the courage to speak to her for a while. When I finally did, Ava and I flowed so well, and our conversations were heavenly. She was the kind of woman I wanted, but I was shy around women. My best friend, Joseph, knew how much I loved Ava, and I wouldn't stop talking about her whenever we were together, so he encouraged me to keep being the sweet guy I was, and in no time, Ava would be mine. He was actually correct. As I began to spend more time with Ava, go on dates, or take her to the movies, our bond grew stronger, and when I finally asked her to be my girlfriend, she couldn't say no. When I met Ava, we worked in different companies, and I was doing well financially. My only weakness was talking to women, but after Ava became mine, I didn't have to worry about that anymore. We dated for 2 years, and I made sure she was the happiest woman on earth within those 2 years. I did all these things because I genuinely loved her, and seeing her made me happy. Also, before I proposed to Ava, she always told me that she didn't want the kind of public proposal where I'd have to invite her friends or throw a party, so I took note of that, and I asked her to join me on vacation, and within our 4-day vacation, I proposed to her, and she said yes. Immediately after we returned home, we began to make our wedding plans. We had a church wedding, and everything went blissfully. After our wedding, Joseph advised that we move into a bigger apartment, and being that he had been my childhood friend and best friend, I listened to him. Luckily for us, we could rent an apartment some house away from where he lived, so he just needed to walk for about 7 minutes before getting to my house, and this was just perfect for me. I didn't want a situation where I'd abandoned my best friend because I was married, and when I discussed it with Ava, she agreed. After we moved into the new apartment, the bond between Joseph, Ava, and me grew stronger. He wasn't married yet, so this allowed him to stay out late at our place or spend time outside until we were all tired. Also, I loved that Ava was finally getting along with Joseph and not uptight with him like she used to be. About a year after our wedding, my company laid off a lot of staff, and fortunately for me, I found another job, and the pay was even better. The only downside about my new job was that it required me to travel to other towns a lot, and I didn't have enough time to spend with Ava and Joseph like I used to, but I always tried to make up for my absence whenever I was around. And because Ava could not drive, I was forced to look for someone to drive her to work. We searched for a couple of people online, but Ava was uncomfortable with any of them, and in the end, I suggested Joseph, my best friend, since I trusted him, and Ava thought it was great too. Honestly, I chose Joseph because I believed he could look after Ava for me while I was not around, but little did I know I was making a terrible mistake. I knew Joseph had always been the flirty type and always had his way around women, but I didn't think he could disrespect me, break my trust, and destroy our 25 years of friendship. One day, I returned home on a Saturday, and I was so hungry that I had to stop at Joseph's house to eat before getting home. So I called him before entering our town, and he told me he was cooking. That was the main reason I dropped by his house first. I didn't want to go home yet because the last time I spoke to Ava, she told me she was shopping for groceries, so I calculated when she'd get home to cook, and going to Joseph's house was the best option. While we were eating, I noticed that he kept typing on his phone, and I believed it must have been some new girl he was trying to get laid with, so I didn't even bother asking him about it. So immediately, we were done eating, and Joseph tried to pack our plates while he still held onto his phone. His phone fell on the ground, and in my attempt to pick up his phone for him, I realized he had been chatting with Ava all along. She even sent him a half-naked picture of her in the bathroom, with a towel tied around her chest and her neatly waxed legs. I stared at the phone, and I could not utter a word. I didn't need a psychic to tell me Joseph was sleeping with Ava. I was so broken, and I left his house immediately. Ava was trying to cook when I got home, and I confronted her about Joseph. At first, she denied it and even asked if I had hit my head, but when I told her that Joseph was HIV positive, she dropped the pan and turned in my direction. Ava asked me if I was messing with her, but I told her Joseph had been HIV positive for a very long time, and that's when she broke down and began to cry. She admitted she had been with Joseph without protection the previous night, but I already knew. I just wanted her to say it. I yelled at her for putting our health at risk, and for breaking my trust, then I kicked her out of the house. We eventually did an HIV test, and we were both negative, but unfortunately for her, several weeks later, she tested positive for herpes. At that time, I was already processing our divorce papers, and shortly after that, we divorced. I could not believe that despite everything I had done for Joseph and Ava, they still chose to hurt me like that. So I got a restraining order for them and warned them never to come near me or my house. In the end, Ava and Joseph didn't last one bit. Joseph only wanted to pleasure himself, but Ava thought she could fool me and keep it a secret. Finally, she begged me and said it was Joseph that misled her, but I wasn't buying any of that. Ultimately, I was forced to leave the apartment because it was toxic to my mental health. This happened long ago, but I'm thankful I'm gradually healing from the heartbreak. OP, I'm so sorry you had to go through all of this. It must have been tough to find out that the two people you trusted the most could do such a thing to you. I'm also glad you did the right thing by getting rid of both because they could harm you more. Thinking that she begged for your forgiveness after breaking your trust and hurting you that way is laughable. Now she knows that she cannot eat her cake and have it. I commend you for prioritizing yourself and your mental health and leaving the apartment. Knowing that you loved her so much might be difficult for you to move on, but I'm sure you will. Give yourself time and heal properly. I am proud you made the right decisions and thank you for sharing your story with us. Now, let's move on to the second story of the day. My wife and I were high school lovers at one time. We were the cutest and hottest lovers in school back then, but because she got entangled with one of the popular boys I did not like, we were forced to break up. By entangled, I mean I caught her kissing the boy. After high school, I went to college the following year, and I never really saw her again until some years later. That night, I went out with one of my friends who was having a bachelor's party, and coincidentally, Nancy was there. At first, I didn't recognize her because it had been years, but when she walked to my table and introduced herself, everything I felt for her back in high school returned. She had completed college and was currently working in the same town as me, so that night, we chose to iron out whatever issues we had in the past, and we became friends again. I was hurt by what Nancy had done, but part of me still wanted her back. We exchanged contacts that night, and we began to talk to each other more. Then from there, we started going out and dating again. While going out together, we got intimate, and that's when we both realized that we still had feelings for each other. I did my best to hold back because I didn't want her to take me for granted, but when she confessed that she still wanted me, we made it official and started dating again. We dated for almost a year, and after that, we got married. Most of our high school friends were surprised that we got back together, and they ensured they attended the wedding. The wedding was fun, and the best part was seeing faces we had not seen in a long time. Nancy was pretty famous, and she was a social media addict. She got paid to influence brands, use and talk about products, and so much more. So aside from doing her day job, she also made money online. Though she earned more money than I didn't have a problem with that, but I didn't allow that to stop me from doing my responsibilities as a husband. I provided for the house, got her whatever she wanted, and even got her a car. We agreed that we wouldn't have children in the first 2 years of our marriage because we wanted to make up for the lost time by spending more time with each other and doing the things we said we would do while we were teenagers. We believed we would get married, and we did. I was a very supportive husband, and most times, Nancy gave me access to her Facebook page to help create content whenever she was busy, since content creation was easy for me. I never complained about her always being on her phone because I knew it was one of her means of earning, and whenever she was busy, I'd help around the house, cook, go grocery shopping, or if we were both tired of cooking, I'd order takeouts or we'd eat out. So in my own way, I did everything I could to make her enjoy our marriage, feel comfortable, and still have the freedom to do the things she used to do before we got married. While I struggled to balance my work life and marriage life to make Nancy happy, I never knew that my wife was having an affair with another influencer she met on Facebook until something happened. The funny thing was she had mentioned the guy a couple of times and the crazy number of followers he had, but I just thought she was stalking her fellow influencers. One day, I was at home taking my day off when I got a call from a truck company that they were towing my car. As confused as I was, I asked for the location, and I went down there, only to realize that it was my wife's car, but the company called me because the car was registered under my name. I was shocked to see my wife's car there because her office was only a 30-minute drive from the house, but that location was an hour away from home. I didn't get it because she was supposed to be at work at that time, and I looked around for the sign of a women's store or nail salon, but I didn't see any, and she didn't also mention anything about going for shopping before leaving the house that morning. Then, while trying to talk to the truck company guys, I saw my wife coming from one corner with her hands wrapped around the influencer guy's waist. The moment she saw me, she gasped and was surprised to see her car being towed away. I was really heartbroken because, from the body language I saw, it was evident that the two of them had been intimate with each other. Without waiting for an explanation, I began to video the both of them, but the guy kept saying, "Sir, this means nothing. We were just having fun, and she's all yours," and he was embarrassed by the number of people that began to turn heads. Finally, out of anger and disappointment, I yelled at them and asked Nancy if she had fun with other men to become their influencer, but she said nothing and began to cry. When her car was successfully towed away, I went into my car and drove off without her. I saw her fighting with the guy from the rearview mirror, but I already knew it was over between us. I got home and posted the video on her Facebook page because I had access to it, and I tagged the other influencer guy. I knew the post would be taken down, but before it was, many people had seen it and commented on it. She tried to beg me when she came home, but she met her stuff scattered by the door. I asked her to pack her things and leave, and she did. She obviously had something for famous guys, so she could go on and live the life she wanted. We divorced shortly after that. I blamed myself for being so stupid. I ignored the red flag and believed she must have changed, but Nancy would always be Nancy. The news of our divorce affected her influencing business, and most of her clients closed their contracts with her, and the influencer cut her off for ruining his career, but she deserved everything she got. I've moved on now, and I'll be careful enough not to ignore red flags again in the future. OP, you were such a good husband, yet your ex-wife did not appreciate your efforts to make life comfortable for her. Not all men are like you, but she took what she had for granted. I'm happy you did not let her back into your life. She would have kept hurting you. It's almost unbelievable that she cheated on you in less than 1 year of marriage. I agree with you that she deserved everything that happened to her, and you've successfully gotten rid of a toxic spouse. I'm also sure you will not ignore red flags in the future again. I wish you all the best. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. Take care.